So we're continuing now with lesson 16 of the step-by-step tutorial, and we've just added an event handler for the new customer record here. So now that we can enter a new record, let's test this out, and we're going to intentionally make some mistakes here. So I'm going to go here to say contact name and type in say Jim Smith, and I'm going to leave all of the other fields blank, even though it says here specifically that customer ID is required and that address is required. And then I'm going to go ahead now and press the submit button, and when I press the submit button you can see that a whole bunch of errors are displayed. So now these are the errors that are actually returned by the database, in this case the Access database, but if we were talking to a SQL Server database or an Oracle database, the database server has returned errors when we try to do an insert, and it's telling us that basically in this particular case that the customer ID cannot be a zero length string. In other words, it's telling us that that's a required field. But this obviously is not a very friendly way of displaying errors to a user, and so we're going to improve that by putting in validation rules that check the data before we actually try to commit it to the database. Also, recall that in an earlier lesson we added in a placeholder for global errors, and so that's why these errors here are displaying underneath the image in the form. So when we go back to look at the customer form, we can see that in the customer form, if we scroll down a little bit, we can see that after the image control there's our placeholder for global update errors, which is exactly why those errors are displaying there as opposed to some other place on the UX component. So in a mobile app that has multiple panels, it's very important to specify where an error is going to be shown, because you don't want the error to be shown on a panel that is not currently in focus. So let's also now, the other thing that we'd like to point out now is when we go to run the component and we click on an existing record, we can see that the customer ID is shown, but we don't want the user to be able to change the customer ID of an existing record. On the other hand, when we're entering a new record, we do want the customer ID to be shown, because the customer ID needs to be specified. In the particular case of this database, the customer table, the customer ID field is an explicit value like ALFKI or BOLID. In many databases that you design, the customer ID field might end up being an auto increment field, in which case you would not need to enter it. But in this particular case, the Northwind database does specify customer ID as a user enter field. So we want this customer ID field over here to only display if we're in enter record mode. So let's go back and do that, and then also define a rule for customer ID to prevent the user from submitting the form if that field is blank. So let's go back to design mode now, and we'll scroll up to the top here, and we'll go now to the customer ID field itself. So here is the customer ID field, and first let's basically make this field only visible if we're in enter record mode. So make sure that customer ID has focus in the panel in the list over here, and then scroll down until you get in the property sheet here to client-side properties. So in client-side properties you can see here there's a property called show hide expression. So let's click the builder now and then insert field, and we can go here and scroll down to is new record. So you can see here dialog.isNewRecord, and then we've now defined an expression that says we only want to show this control if dialog.isNewRecord is true. So let's pause now and pick this up in the next video.